Hi, this is Paul, and today I'm going to show you how to add a tilt shift effect to your time-lapse footage, in addition to doing some other minor image restoration. So here's the footage we're going to work with. It's some time-lapse footage of Fenway Park at night, and it's really cool looking. Of course, I took the footage, so I'm going to say that, but I'm not going to gloat too much because, as you can see, it shakes and there is a flicker on it. So those are both things we have to fix before we can add the tilt shift or the lens blur. Alright, so let's go ahead and do it. We're going to start with the optical stabilizer. The order of these effects does matter. Optical stabilizer has to be applied first, or it will ignore all the effects that have already been applied. So click to analyze. Goes by very fast on this short clip. The default settings, which are to stabilize and translation only, are actually perfect for this shot. We don't have to spend much more time on this, but let's say you did. A couple of things I want to point out. You can change the amount of scaling it's doing. If it's scaled in too much, you can rotate. And you can also, if you're not scaling, you can change the edge handling. So you can repeat the edges or reflect or tile. Again, this one hardly moved. If I force it to scale smaller, you can see that more. But yeah, so those options are there if you need them. Alright, so we're just going to go back to color and turn auto scale back on. Okay, so optical stab is all set up. I'm actually going to disable it now so we can focus on the flicker fixer. So let me show you one more time where the flickering is happening. It's down at the bottom of the screen near these buildings. Now, who knows what's causing the flicker in reality? It could have been cars driving by, and you can't do a heck of a lot about those things, but you can fix it in post. So we're going to do that. Flicker Fixer is really cool. It's got two modes, frame analysis and temporal smooth. Temporal smooth I tend to use more often because I think it gives more consistent results. Frame analysis, it works great on some clips, but some clips it just doesn't seem to have any effect. So temporal smoothing is perfect for time lapse. You might get a little bit of streaking if you overdo it in temporal, but that actually kind of helps time lapse footage. So this is my chosen method. Max frames, 3 is great. These flickers don't last very long. 3 frames is perfect to cover them up. The color range is basically how strong the effect applies to each color. Red, green, and blue here, or YCC there. And that's really all you need to know. You can adjust this smoothing amount, but the default settings, yet again, are actually really good on this clip. If I go to compare, I can show you side by side. Slide it over to where the building was flickering. And if I play it back, you can see it's still flickering over here, and over here it is fine. Alright, so that's a good way to check if you're actually fixing your footage or not. And again, I'm going to disable Flicker Fixer so we can focus on the fun one, the lens blur. So lens blur, by default, is just a full screen effect. It can be a little bit processor heavy, so Premiere, I'm actually going to drop the resolution just for your sake. I could set up the whole thing without doing it, but I want you to see what's happening. So again, here's the iris scale, obviously, and you can also change the shape of the iris. You can add bokeh, some curvature, do a lot of fun stuff with it. Make maybe the lights like stars, but we're not going for that. So I'm going to change the shape to circle, and I'm not going to add bokeh even though I want to. What we're going to do is use the ZMap function. Now this is the coolest part of this filter. It lets you add depth of field in post. Of course, it depends on your footage. So this footage, if I turn on ZMap, it's trying to use the luminance channel as the distance, and that doesn't quite work. Like, these lights aren't closer to us than this billboard, so we can't use luminance. What we can do, though, is use the pixel chooser and create a rough distance map And that's what we're going to do. So if I turn on Pixel Chooser, the default setting here is to use the whole screen. So we have to change the shape to something with a gradient. My favorites for this are distance to line or linear gradient. Distance to line is the one I'm going to use. Now the effect is a little subtle if you don't know what you're looking for. So let me go back to ZMap and change the mode to View Focus Map. So here you can see the white areas are what's in focus. And I can change the focal point really easily. You want the middle of this shot to be mostly white. And you can see here, like, the focus map is really big right now. So if I go into my Pixel Chooser, I can adjust this map directly. And, that gives me an idea of where the focus is going to be, but I can't see what it looks like on my footage. So I could change the Pixel Chooser to mask unchosen pixels, and then I see where that is on my footage. So that helps a lot too. Now in this specific shot, it's a baseball stadium. Everyone kind of knows that the stadium is on the same plane, like roughly the same plane focus-wise. So I want the audience to all be roughly in the same focus plane. And I can do that either by adjusting the from and to, or I can actually move the whole area. You could actually do a rack focus this way. Okay, so let's put it about there. And I want to make sure we have a nice gradient still. I'm going to turn this back on. And so the gradient is okay. I can increase the size by increasing the region blend. And then pushing 2 back out. And kind of balancing between these two. Again, masking the pixels to make sure it's still about lined up where I want. That should look good. Now let's see how it looks all together. Change View Focus Map just to on. And let's give ourselves a break and turn the resolution back up to get a nice picture. Okay, perfect. Now there's a few other fun things you can do. Of course, I mentioned you can animate the position to give like a rack focus effect, and you can also add noise, you can add highlights, you could boost the blur on certain elements, which actually looks really good on this shot, if not for the fact that these lights become distracting at that point. Look how good those background lights look. It's like I'm tempted to mask out just the lights. Actually, I guess I could with Premiere 2015. You can actually create masks. But anyway, I don't want to get too complicated here. So no boosting, no masking, just a nice straightforward tilt shift with some other image stabilization thrown in. And there it is. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Again, I used all BCC effects. There's lots of great things you can do there. And there's more tutorials online, and that's borisfx.com.